All right, so in this video, we are going to talk about working with the grid system to help create more intentional shapes. So I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to Show, and I'm going to turn on my grid. Okay. Now, let's see, where did they put it? They like to, every time they come out with a new edition of Photoshop, they move the preferences. Here we go. So go to Photoshop and Preferences and Guides, Grid, and Slices. Actually, I like that location better. It's just, I'm used to it. And here you can control everything. You can change the color of your guides. Here's my grid. It's gray. That works fine. Grid line every 1 inch, which are these dark. Whoops, I was pointing to my finger. Which are these dark lines. That's 1 inch. And then I have subdivisions every 4 per inch, and those are these subdivisions in here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 inch divided by 4 is 0.25. So I've got 1/4 of an inch by 1/4 of an inch grid. So if I do 16, this now takes it down to 1/16 of an inch. And I have really tiny grids, but I have more grid lines. Okay, so you're going to have to decide how small you want to work. Here's where math, specifically geometry, is important in design. I often have students say, Ms. V, why do I have to take math? You should take math, and you should definitely take, algebra is very useful every day. It helps you make decisions about all kinds of things. In some of the videos on time management that I talk about that. So that's a whole other subject, and I don't want to take up this video with that. But you do need to know math, and learning basic fractions is really important to being able to work with a new project. Okay, so I don't need that many. So I had 4, let's do 8. That works. Okay, so I now have 1/8 of an inch to work with. And let's say I came up with a design, which I can't show you on screen. I'm recording this on my screen. If I had a sketch and I had scanned it, I could, but I haven't done that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my rectangle tool, and I'm going to go back to View, and I'm going to I want to snap. I'm going to turn that on, and I want to snap to my grid. So I'm going to turn off. Really? You're going to do that every time? I used to let you check multiples. All right, I'm going to turn off everything except my grid. I only want it snapping to my grid. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select color, and I'm going to turn off the stroke. Okay. And now I'm going to use my grid, and I should snap to, make sure it's on, snap to grid. Okay. And now I should be able to use my rectangle tool and draw on my grid. And it did. It just snapped very nice. You can see it snapping. It snapped very nicely to my grid. And there's my rectangle. And if I need to make any changes, I want to do it here. But I don't. So I'm going to click back on my background, and I'm going to select a new fill color. And I'm going to create a new rectangle, snapping to my grid. And I may want to change that color. I could spend hours on colors, and I'm trying not to do that here. Just wanted to get something a little closer to this. Okay. And then let's click on background, change it again. Choose that one. Okay. Create another rectangle. Right there. Ooh, I don't like that color at all. Okay, background, and then I will pick another color. I'm kind of going down the rainbow here. Okay, and so I've kind of got a pattern going on here, and I'm going to repeat that pattern now. But I'm going to shift it over. Okay, it went all the way to the end, so I want to put it right here. Okay, here's my next. Okay, now I can do this multiple ways, right? I can duplicate what I've created up here, which is probably the easier way to do it, and then change the colors and move it around. Or I can build from scratch. It's usually faster to duplicate layers. But before I do that, say I want to play around with this a little bit, and I want to play with my blending modes. Okay. Let me just delete this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hold down my shift, and I'm going to select those 3 layers. And I'm going to do layer, lock layers, and I don't want to lock anything except, I'm sorry, I don't want to lock them. I want to join them. Layer, link layers, sorry about that. Link layers. So I've linked them, and you see you can now tell that they're linked together because they now have the chain. Okay, so what I'm going to do is layer, while they're still selected, duplicate layers, and it will duplicate all of them for me. And I should give it a name, but for the sake of brevity, because I can only upload a 15-minute video into, I can now copy and move this pattern. And I'm going to do it again. And shift. Okay, and so you see what I've done, right? Minimalism, pattern, repetition. And while this is not great, and I didn't plan this out, I'm going to shift. I'm going to do a better job of putting things on my page. Okay, let's do one more. Make sure it's only 2 over. Nope, that was 3. Now you see how quickly I've been able to work on a grid. How easy that was to play around and work with this, because I now know what each little division means. It's now allowed me the very easy ability to move things around aligned because I have these grids. It's allowed me to create these shapes very quickly, and there's obviously it's still simple. It still needs something else, and I'm not sure I've aligned everything right. Something looks off. But you see what I'm doing. You see how this works, and you see how you can create rhythm, pattern, harmony. Now, let's see. This is great. It used to not work this way. It used to be that you had to hold down Control and click on an object to find out what it was, to be able to get it over here. Now you can just click on an object. Okay, so I'm going to select this one. And this is where I'm going to change the color. I want it more saturated. And lighter. Nope, darker. Nope, lighter. This is really not the color I want. All right. Yeah, it's not right. I really want to make this stand out, and I don't want it darker because that makes it too heavy. I like the lighter, but I want it more saturated. But it's not popping from the other one enough. Okay, there we go. That'll work. And so let me turn my grid off. And just come back down here to show and turn that off. And now you see I have, using rectangles, blending modes, and color psychology, color theory, because I literally just picked 4 colors next to each other on the color wheel, right? So I had 4 shades of an analogous colors. Picked them together, worked on that grid, aligned them, and granted I have decades of design experience behind me that my brain works a little faster with that now. But you see how quickly I just laid that out. I didn't have a plan. You should have a plan. You absolutely should have a plan. However, I did something that used very basic elements, but applied the principles of design. Sorry, I always want to call them the opposite of what they are, even after all these years. That applied the principles of design in a way that I played with repetition, I played with rhythm, I played with alignment, and then I changed that one box right there. That's it. I changed that one box, and that box created my focal point. And it's not great, but it's not a bad design because I just throw it together. Okay, and so that's how you can use grids. You can also use your guides that we talked about to do all sorts of things. Now, I'll tell you one very simple, easy way to make this better is I'm going to create a cutout. Now, I would do this on my grid, turn that back on, work on the grid. You can use, now I'm using my negative space color, and begin to take little bites out. I think that would work. Yeah, that would really work. Take some little bites out of this to start to fine tune it and make it more interesting. There's my box right there. Whoops. So if you want to modify it, you've lost it, you want to modify it, just go back and click back on your rectangle tool. There it is. And by using my background color to come in and take these little bites out of these, it helps create, refine more detail. And we're still very much minimalism. I could keep going with this and make this better, but we're going to run out of time here shortly. So I'm going to end this video here, and then in the next video we'll talk about text.